Hey folks, for those of you watching the replay, don't hesitate to ask any questions, but give me a thumbs up or let me know in a comment if you can see this. Just gonna talk to you about communities. Sorry, I've got so many screens going here. Pulling this one over, moving it over here. Let me know, folks, if you don't mind. Just give me a thumbs up or something so that I know that you're all seeing me. Okay, we've got some people here, so I know that we're good. Excellent. So I want to talk to you a little bit about communities. And I don't know why my head is so big, but anyways, I want to talk to you a bit about communities and about the use cases for them. So I am not a fan of Facebook as a community, and lots of people are. Just bear with me here, guys. Ooh, I'm just trying to find myself here. I just got off a call, so I'm a little late to the party here. I am not a fan of Facebook for community for business, mainly because my market is business to business. So for those of you, I should say, who don't know me, my name is Tracy Lawrenson, founder of Lifetime Tech Deal Fans and Total Tech Nerd. And this is a bit of a, for those of you who've been with the group for a while, you'll know that I did the same thing with webinar tools, same thing with video tools. I really like to analyze the different features and compare different platforms. And I'll just, if you can all be patient with me for 1 second here, just want to make sure that we're all good. Folks, if you don't mind, just give me a thumbs up or something so that I know that you're all, now I'm repeating myself. I'm just going to put a comment here. Bear with me, folks. I'm sorry. I'm normally a little smoother here. If you guys can click on that eCam link, I know it's kind of annoying to do that, but just because then it allows me to see your names. I'm getting some comments through. I'll cut to the very end here. The tool that I am recommending is Uki right now. It's a newer tool. It's raw. It's got some really weird things about it, but you'll see that I'm going to go through some comparisons, and I think that it meets the majority of the needs for the majority of our people. And there is a 20% discount. They've got a lifetime deal on their site. It's their own lifetime deal, and there's 20% off if you use that coupon. But I'm going to go through the different sort of considerations that I make when I look at, community. I'll start first of all with our, here's our Buddy Boss site. So this is the site that we have. God, I don't know why my head is so large here. Sorry, folks, I'm really being annoying here. But what you'll see is this is our Buddy Boss site, and our forums are, can't really take you into them because these are actually live. But Buddy Boss does a really great job of forums. But it's expensive, unwieldy, and candidly, we've had some significant issues with sort of the responsiveness, the delivery on the roadmap, and I hate WordPress with a burning passion. We've got a beautiful site that Ellen Martin, who's one of our our members here, built out for us, and it's a gorgeous site. But the Buddy Boss community, I just don't love. So let me just go through some of the other ones, and if just here, hi Tracy. If you use other platforms, please mention them in chat. But let me just run through a couple of the ones. I'll start with Uki because this is the one that I'm kind of excited about. Well, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Bear with me, guys. I have no idea why everything's so weird here. Normally I'm a little more organized here. options. Oh, that's what I want. Don't want to have my big head. There we go. Just let me find this here. So this is an Uki site, and the reason why I'm kind of liking this right now is that it, first of all, I've got dark mode on here, but what you'll see is that, you know, sort of nice clean. It's got Montserrat, which, you know, always matters to me. But a couple of things are interesting here. So you'll see that this page has sort of the social media look. This page has the regular forum look. I don't know why this is weird. Like there's still a lot of bugs here, but you'll see that this was a poll that showed up super weird there. Going back to the heading, I just was throwing images in, but again, the social media look once you click through to it. Here's something that is quite interesting though, is you can also embed in here and you can have this grid layout so that you can put, you know, sort of have all of these different looks in the community, which I kind of like. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. But you can have the regular forum sort of list style, this grid style, or the social media look. And, you know, you can add different sort of communities with different privacy and that sort of thing. The one thing that's quite interesting about Uki is it also is highly embeddable. So if you click into each of these, you have to do a lot of clicking, but you can see that each of these have the different settings for public, private, or invite only, or also, you know, the different layouts, and you can change them here. I've got to figure out how to change this. I might be the only person who really does not like dark mode. Oh, here, add edit spaces. If anybody knows how to change this out of dark mode, I made a mistake there because I really don't like it. Anyways, what you'll find here is that it's super embeddable. Get embeds here. So you can embed the whole community, you can embed a space in the community. And so what it would allow you to do is if you use a platform like New Zenler, which has a crappy community, you can actually embed and have it seamlessly syncing up so that people won't know that they're leaving a different platform. Really good sort of white label features as well. But let's go through some of these other ones. The branding, I'll go through the features first and then I'll come back to some of the platforms that I have tested. So for branding, here's some of the things that different platforms have. And really the purpose of this mind map is I'm not going to be able to compare everything with everything, but what it allows you to do is if you're looking at a community tool, it allows you to take the criteria and apply it to your needs because not all of these things will be important to you. So for example, with branding, do you want it to be white labeled? Do you want it to have a custom domain? Do you want the emails to come from your own email? Does it matter to you? You know, because some of these things may not matter. Do you want to have the company's branding totally hidden? Does that matter to you? Custom colors, custom font. For me, because I want to use it embedded in a community, it was super important to me to be able to make it match the look and feel of my site. So Tracy, I know you're a fellow Zenler person. The ability to use your font and your style so that when people click on the community, it is natural for them. Custom code snippets, the ability to add a chat matters. Going to the layout, I really like the ability to, you know, have different widgets to pin posts, you know, header, footer, sidebar, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Some of these other companies in some ways do it better. So let's go to Tribe. This is their own platform. So this is the Tribe platform that was on LTD. The only one of these that's currently on LTD is Uki, and it's not our exclusive deal, it's their own one. They've been on AppSumo, so you know it's possible they'll go back, but they've assured me that they're not going to be ever offering a better deal than they've offered on their own site. But what you can see here is these different tags. These are some nice features. For those of you that bought the Tribe deal from AppSumo, couple of weird things. First of all, we're locked into version 1.0. They've launched version 2.0 and will be making it available to lifetime members. But they're leaving us till the end of that process to do that. So right now their 2.0 does seem to be, worse than their 1.0. So that may not be a terrible thing. But they also have some upcharges for some things. So, it's not sort of a one and done on this one. But you can see that they've got some nice sort of highlighted tags where you can find different people, kind of like the layout of connecting these different comments to each other. They've got this nice pin feature, but that's sort of what the left and right hand sidebar meant in my previous thing there. Let's go here. Rich posts. This is really kind of where the money is what kind of posts can you make in the community? Some will allow you to do long form articles. That's not something that I really have used. So, but that might be important to you. Polls. A lot of them have polls. But what you want to do is sort of like multiple choice, and can you choose more than one option? GIFs are pretty ubiquitous now, like most people have them, but can you embed HTML? Can you put, for example, a question scout or an involve me quiz into a post? Because one of the use cases then might be that you could even create like a client. If you're a coach, for example, you could create a community where it's private to that individual client. Video, generally, all of them have video. It's a question of checking, can you embed the videos from the sources that you like? With HTML, that's usually not an issue, but if you are uploading directly to the platform, you'll want to double check that there's not limits. Post formatting, can you make it look good? Bolding, that sort of thing. Can you upload documents? This is one area where Uki's got this coming, but for me, using with my clients, if I'm going to have a community in my business to business, I work with governments. So if I'm going to have a community for city managers, I want them to be able to share documents, so upload PDFs, those sorts of things to the platform. Question posts, some of the platforms, and I'll click through, will allow you to actually have a type of post, which is a question. And you'll see that on Facebook as well. And then scheduling posts is another thing. There is a workaround with Integrately. They've got a connection with Uki. Peerboard doesn't have that, but you'll want to check that sort of integrations as well if you want to do some of these things. But a number of them have already built in scheduling. Onboarding. Do your members get onboarding is what I'm meaning with this. Is there logged in, log out homepages? Start where you left off. If you've ever used, I'm a member of the Membership Site Academy, and they use IP board, and it says, what have you missed since you were here? And it's sort of, it's got a very community feel there. Can you embed the entire community, groups and spaces, or specific posts? And one of the reasons why I like Uki is you can do all of these, but you can with other platforms as well. I am assuming, folks, that you're not using Facebook, and Facebook is better for engagement. There's no doubt about that. The world is full of stories about people that started communities off of Facebook and people didn't follow them. It's why LTDF is still on Facebook. But if you want, I think, my bias, I just think it's cheap as poop when you've got a paid program and you're using a free platform. I just think it looks weird, versus having even your free Facebook group and then a private site. But it's got to be easy to use. Limits. You want to find out how many public spaces, private spaces. Is there a limit on members or admins? What about file upload and storage limits? So these are, again, and let me know in the chat if you'd like to see this mind map. I can share it with you if you're interested, just for your own sort of, assessment of, platforms. Because really, it's hard for me to compare every platform for you. But if I give you a list of the different, selling points that all of the sites have, you can sort of go, oh, that one's really important to me. Does the platform that I'm planning to use have it? These are those views that I talked about, the social media view, the list view, which is the more traditional forum, and then the grid view. Uki does the first and the third quite well. The second one's really kind of ugly. I'll show you Peerboard in a second. Actually, I'll pop up there. You know, Peerboard does a really good job of the list ones here. So remind me when I get to that. Gamification, I'm sort of two minds of this. Most of them have something. Beam, that was an AppSumo deal, had the weirdest purple blobby sort of, community setup, which was just like odd at best. But quests, badges, level and ranks, profile upgrades, like, can they get like special badges or banners? Some of them have built-in gamification, but you want to sort of find out what behaviors are being rewarded. Because just, multiple posting, liking other people, being a good helper. Sounds like kindergarten. But gamification, depending on your sector, can really matter. I will tell you, in my experience, gamification done well is awesome. But if it's not done well, it just makes you look cheesy as heck. And if I'm not going to be the leader, sometimes I just opt out. Competitive much? Again, we've talked about space types. Public would mean sort of searchable. So if you want to have a community that will have SEO benefits, you'll really want to look at what's public and what, how does that work? Private is, depending on the wording, private is generally that you have to have a login. Is there approval? We'll talk about these member features, but the approval, and hidden is usually where it's not visible unless somebody joins by a link. But check the definitions because they're not exactly the same on each of the platforms, and make sure that it's going to work the way you expect. What you don't want is a site where everything, in my experience, where everything is all of the same. Everything being public, you'll outgrow that very quickly. So you do want to have membership features that allow you to screen who sees what. Partly because that's a, big benefit for upselling is that, only our members get to see this. But this is public. Member directory. If you want to build a community, depending on your sector, you may want to have rich member profiles so that I can see that, let's say I'm in Australia with Tracy, that I can see that she's somebody who's interested in her case, quilting. But if I can find other quilting people, not just in Tracy's online community, but also maybe there's somebody in my same city that we can quilt together. I don't know, Trace, like I'm, guessing at how this might work in your area. Rich profiles allow them to add, new, like obviously in Buddy Boss, you can add a background image, your profile picture, but what you also want to have is the ability to ask custom questions, because it might be that you want to ask about their experience level or their role in an organization, or you might want to have some segmentation, because of course the reason why you're wanting to use your own community is because it's a list building tool as well. So the more information you can get from people, the better. Search amongst members and tagging and badges. I want to be able to, so say I was a member, so I'm a tech nerd, there might be a lawyer subforum, there might be a Canadian subforum. The more you can have tagging, the more people can connect without you having to do all of the heavy lifting. And one of the elements of community that's important is, do people see people like them there? One of the reasons why our LTDF group is so successful is people see business people like themselves here, not just deal grubbers and that sort of thing. So finding ways to have people connect with people like them is going to give your community traction beyond your, Wednesday win kind of posts. Scheduling to Tracy, as well. Now with Integrately, you can already schedule it into Uki, and I can show you how to do that. Organized discussions, images in the platform, sort of content and resources, like can you have guides? First of all, here's the weird thing. Facebook is a terrible platform. Sorry, Zuckerberg, I hope he's not listening. But if you're on your mobile now, if you click into a notification, you can't even see what group it came from. There's so many bugs there. So one of the things that I'm seeing in these purpose-built forums is people are doing a better job of fixing some of the things that are frustrating about about Facebook. And one of the big things about it is the lack of organization. You know, you can search, but it's not great. So just that about engagement now. Some of these, in my opinion, are kind of gimmicky and others are great. Tracy says, yeah, so tagging is important to me, plus scheduling. And I definitely will send this mind map. And if any of you at the end of this have anything that you think is missing, man, I'd love to hear what else is important to you that might not be discussed here. So group chat rooms, you know, it's so funny because there's always this, you know, it doesn't matter to me, but it might matter to somebody else. Live streaming into a group, Zoom integration right into the community. I really like this idea of weekly digests because one of the ways that you get people coming back to a community is by what this means is here's the hot discussions of the week, and you know, where you can automatically sort of set that up. You choose them all, and then an email is sent from the platform to the members, you know, that you've selected for that. In-app notifications. We're going to talk about mobile in a second, but first of all, do people get notified when something happens? Okay, that's easy. But for the love of all that's holy, can you also turn those off so that you're not getting spam? Because I think probably most of us have joined somewhere and then just gone, well, that was a mistake, because you get inundated with irrelevant notifications. So can a community owner set up what's the default before people make changes? If the code for 20% isn't working, I will, it should be. That's frustrating. It's Uki, so not 20. That's frustrating. Let me get that sorted for you. It's not a good sign. Direct messaging. Can members direct message each other? Can you direct message members? That's a good feature. The link is right in the description in the post. It's not our deal for Uki though, Tracy. It's just a general offer. So you can click there and sort of see it. It's the ugliest sales page like ever. Like, I'm not really sure what the dealio is, but user mentions, can I at people in the community? You certainly want to have the ability to sort of, you know, reference people. Hashtags are, you know, when they work. I, you know, keep putting hashtags in Facebook and I don't even think they do anything. How well do categories work? You know, so that if I want to only hear about, let's say that, you know, an LTDF group, you know, let's say that all I want to find is the webinar discussions. I want to find those categories. Let's say I just want to find the deals. And how quick are notifications? You know, is it real time? You know, air quotes on real there because, you know, the time-space continuum. Events. You know, is there calendaring? Can I post events into the community? So similar to this one, you know, in Facebook, which still makes people go, you know, searching to find the stream. But, you know, is there a calendar where people can see what's coming up so that in the community, you know, one of the things that, you know, some people are using community for is actually as a course platform. If your only courses are videos, you can actually have a paid community and post your videos and have discussions right in a forum instead of having a separate platform. Obviously, if you want assessments and, you know, all of those sorts of things, you're going to want a proper LMS. But what we're starting to see is that platforms are, you know, in my view, and I remember telling, you know, a founder this 2.5 years ago, that the future of LMS platforms was community. Is that, you know, the whole video hosting, that's the easy part, but the communities is really where, you know, you're going to get people off of Facebook. Paid memberships, can you charge taxes? Recurring, can you gate access, meaning that you can see the first part of a post, but then you have to, you know, join at a fee to continue? Are there upsells or free trials, coupons and discounts? And can people be rewarded for bringing other people into your community? In some sectors, it's a pretty powerful incentive if people can really offset their own membership cost by sharing a community they like with other like-minded people. Integrations, you know, basically, some of them have thousands of integrations. I don't consider Zapier, like, first of all, it's the price of admission. You better connect with something as a community. But for us, one of the questions that I always look at is, does it connect with Integrately? Does it have an open API or webhooks? Um, Partly because, candidly, to me, that goes to development sophistication. If people haven't thought about how their platform is going to communicate with others, in my view, it doesn't bode well for sort of you know, the strategy of an organization. So most of these do have integrations. And BuddyBoss, for example, being in WordPress, has WP Automator and some of the other things. WP Fusion works, there as well. Mobile. So this is a bit of a thing for me. So we spent thousands on a BuddyBoss app for our Learn Dash site. We use MemberPress for access and BuddyBoss. And it ended up just being another point of failure for us. It was just frustrating. Things didn't work. And I realized that in my desire to make things more convenient for my members, I was actually making it more difficult. And for your own app for a community, you're looking, in the thousands for sure. Plus, you got to feed, water, and maintain the thing. And, every upgrade on a system, can throw your app out of sync. So if you want a mobile app, a purpose-built mobile app, do hire a professional unless you are one. That is not for the faint of heart. I happen not to love platforms. Like, I don't want to tell my clients to download Kajabi. I just think that's weird. Like, they don't know Kajabi from a hole in the ground. I want them to see civic excellence, which is why I built, the BuddyBoss app. We've now abandoned it, by the way, and just go with a mobile responsive site. But for the most part, you're not going to find a branded app that matches your brand that is native for iOS and Android. So when everybody says, do you have an app? Realize that once they say our app is live, it's usually going to be Circle or Uki or somebody else if it's a native iOS and Android app. So PWA, Progressive Web App, what that means is that that's where you get the pop-up that says add this to your home screen. Sweet Dash, which is not a community platform per se, has an extraordinary execution on PWA because they allow you, under the lifetime deal that they offered with AppSumo, to add your own logo and name the Progressive Web App so people can download Civic Excellence to their site. And when they click on it, it takes them directly into the mobile version of that site. And so I'm a big fan of branded PWA apps because it's not cost prohibitive. The one thing that is important, though, is the reason that people go with apps usually for community is that right now in iOS, the only way to have real-time notifications, sort of like when you get in Messenger a pop-up when something happens, is to have a purpose-built app, an actual app for your site. I thought that was super important, but compared to the complexity that it created in my life, I realized that I got sold on bells and whistles. A Progressive Web App, though, does allow your icon to sit on on a community member's homepage and have them access it in. Though there's a lot more sophisticated people here that can probably give a better example, but even we had a poll in the group, and it does appear that most people understand the limitations of an app for a specific SaaS. Some softwares have done a good job of labeling their apps in the App Store and in the Google Play Store, like a community, like something more generic so that it doesn't scream off brand for you. But most actually use it as a back end to pitch their brand. And if you've ever tried to log into Kajabi or Teachable, if you've got more than one course that you've bought and then you use their app, like, I don't know about you, but I am always logging into the wrong spot. Moderation. Can you invite teammates? What about roles and permissions? How sophisticated can those be? Can you have your virtual assistant be able to comment? What about editing? What about removing things? What about, deleting the whole site? Can you automatically moderate? Have banned words or different, limitations so that if somebody, if you got a spammer, for example, in Facebook now, there are a number of moderation features. Some of you have probably been caught by these where if something just goes crazy, you can sort of slow down posting so that people don't fight. You can block words or at least have them flagged for you. One of the things that I really like is the ability to move posts. So let's say that somebody has posted into the, introduce yourself part of your community, but it's actually a really substantive question around something else. The ability for a moderator to relocate that so that it's in the spot where it's going to get the time and attention it deserves. Flag posts, flag members too. What's sort of your warning system? If somebody's, had posts removed a couple of times, do you want to put them on pre-approval where they can't post without that? I'm going to pause for a second. Does anybody have any questions? I used to talk way slower when I was a lawyer paid by the hour, but okay. Single sign-on. I don't know what most of these words are. They're sort of social sign-in, which is very different, where you can sort of log in using your, your Facebook. We've all clicked on those. For me, what I want is I want somebody to be able to log in using, whether it's their Zenler password, their WordPress password, so that to the community member, it is seamless. They don't know that they've left to go to another platform, especially if it's, really well white labeled and that sort of thing. I do not know what some of these words mean, but I know that they matter to some people. But basically a question is what will be the community member experience if you're using this in conjunction with another platform? Social login, we touched on. The good thing about social logins is you'll get a real, air quote, real email. But I find this, I try to avoid these if I can, just because I always forget if I've used my actual email or my social. Analytics, what kind of detail are you going to get about the level of engagement? What kind of posts are giving you engagement? Do polls work? Are videos working? Where are your people coming from? Let's say you've got a big community. Are the majority of your members local? Depending on the extent to which you've got those custom fields in membership, you start, what you collect obviously is going to impact what you can track. So if if it really matters to you what gender your members are, you got to make sure that your member profile allows for that to be tracked. Because of course, Facebook already knows all these things. So if you're using Facebook, you can get really good analytics because it's creepy and it, sort of stalks all of your information. But what is going to matter to you? And I would encourage you just to even click through these different platforms and see what each of them can do to see whether that's important for you. Security, data residency. This is something that's really important as a Canadian. Is most Canadian, particularly public sector organizations in Canada, cannot store data in the United States because of what's called the Patriot Act. And that really gives the Americans the ability to muck about in any data that's stored in the United States. So for most non-American companies, this should be a concern because ultimately the confidentiality of that information, even if it's guaranteed by the company, can't be guaranteed at the government level. So for my business, I ultimately need to either limit my use, but if people are going to share documents from me, I need to find out whether there's the ability to have a server that can be located in Canada, because I certainly can't promote any community product to my clients either without that assurance. And it actually doesn't necessarily, ideally in Canada, but it certainly just can't be in the United States. Sorry, Americans. Audit, can I see what was removed, what was there, and how long can I see back for? What's the ability? The other thing I should add here is there any export of information? It doesn't really fit here, but I think that how many of you would like to know that if you ever broke up with your platform, you could actually export it? I think that probably if you're going to build a lot of assets inside your community, that would be important. Of course, you've got none of that in Facebook. Like I think if you go through around, through all of these, oh here, bulk import and export. Okay, I literally was my next one. So, um, is there a way if you've got an existing community somewhere else to somehow get that information in? Well, that's going to be predicated on whether you can export it from that other one. Um, yeah, I don't know how easy that's going to be. That's not something that was super duper important to me yet. And I haven't, I'd be curious to know whether I can export from BuddyBoss into any of these SaaS platforms, Tracy. But I'll share whatever I find out if you can as well. The other thing that we're starting to see in communities, and I don't like, not everything needs to be an all-in-one. Like sometimes I just want to like smack my head against the wall. Oh, Trace, could it be a privacy issue? It might be, and this would be something where you'd want to take a good look at your privacy language when people join, because presumably they're giving you as the community founder their information. I think the question would be, what would the use case be? For me, it would be, I was just, I guess, thinking if the platform failed or if I migrated to another platform. So I don't know in that case if it would be as much of a privacy as long as the data was still being used. I'm not giving legal advice for the same intention as it was given. I don't know. Folks, weigh in on this if you disagree on that, because I'm literally making stuff up right now. Yeah, migration was what I was thinking, Trace, on that. But you're right. I don't think people expect that their posts are going to be going public, anywhere else. So you'd really have, because most people don't care about what platform they're using. They care about the use of their data, but I could be wrong on this. So, buyer beware on all of these things. Integrated courses. Everybody seems to want to be everything. I think that LMSs should have community, but I don't think that every community needs to be an LMS, a learning management system. Mighty Networks has done this. They've added integrated courses, where they've got instructors and course communities. Like what I like is I want to have the ability in our BuddyBoss site. We've got courses on LearnDash, so we've got like our customer service and local government course. We've got a separate sort of little sub-community solely for those learners where only people in that course can see the discussion that's going on there. And we say, in module 10, we'll say, share your experiences in the forum. So people go over and they put those in. And so it makes some sense and it's sort of organized and the discussions are threaded in that. So these dedicated course communities are important, whether the platform offers the course itself. Video instruction right in the community, dripping course content. Now we're really getting into the, sort of LMS stuff. And I really think there's enough learning management systems that don't have good community that I think if I was a community platform owner, I would stick to my knitting so that I wasn't competing with my potential integration partners. New Zealand, for example, is, a good SaaS platform, but its community is just, it's unwieldy, even just in terms of explaining to people why you've got a community and then a discussion. Tracy, if you do want to know how those communities work, Tracy Browning uses it very well in her platform, but I just can't wrap my mind around it. So I showed you Tribe. I'll just come back here. So again, this is the their platform. Different tips and tricks, and you can just see this is quite an attractive one. It's got different sort of formatting, nice tagging. Uki, I went through. Peerboard. Peerboard has my favorite sort of forum style of discussion. I like the, I'm not sure, comments are locked, okay. But if you look at this one, you'll see that it shows how many comments are here, which I kind of like. I think that this is just, to me, a nice sort of hybrid between a social layout like Facebook and the dry forum style. It sort of shows who cares about different things. Some different images. Beam. Okay. So this is like an adorable one. And you'll notice that I like the font because it's Montserrat. Really, things shouldn't be chosen because of that. I recommend you guys do more sophisticated job. But this platform is, you need an exterminator to navigate through it in my experience. Like so many bugs. And what the ever-loving heck is this all about? So this is their gamification, but I don't know, like, okay, I'm old, but I have to get super close to know which purple blob is a good thing or a bad thing. So you can change these, but this is just weirdly thought out to me. But I do really like the look of it. But I don't know what you guys like, no matter how big your screen is, like I've got this zoomed right in. The one thing about this one is it doesn't seem to sort of conversations in the right order. When you comment under something, it doesn't necessarily take you to the place that you're supposed to be at. I'll see if I'm using the right login here. Like you'll see that new posts is 6 months ago. So this is hot. So then we go to new. Still, that's the pinned post. I don't know. I find this, I really wanted to love this because I like the look so much. And there's some limitations on the ability to use, have different types of permissions inside the same community. Doesn't mean this isn't or won't be fixed. But for those of you wanting to not just have an open community, proceed with caution and double check that this will meet your needs. Buddy Boss I went through. I haven't even really looked at Mighty Networks, I have to confess there, but Circle is sort of the granddaddy of all of these things. They're doing a really good job. You'll just see that, like, I just think it's nice and clean. They got the little icons here. You can see that they eat their own dog food in the sense that they use their community really as their help forum. And in my experience from trolling through all these to do this example, the more that you have legit reasons for people to be in your community, the more you're going to have the discussion. So I really like the idea of having the knowledge base sort of inside your community. And so the ability to have these kind of articles does make a big difference. Some of them have just a subgroup where they can, a subforum space, all the language is so different. But the one thing about Circle is it's got some limitations on the number of subgroups you can have. So you want to take a look at that. Any questions here? Nice to see you live. I don't know who this is, but nice to see you here. I appreciate that. You are very welcome. I just have been doing a lot of research around these different things to try to find out what the best options are out there. You can see sort of what I've bought. I own all of these. I gave up my Circle license just because I tested it and then sort of let it go. But let me just go back to, I've got a whole humongous, that is not where I want to be. I've got a whole humongous spreadsheet where I capture all of the bugs that I find. It's my issues with tech. Google Sheet, and you can appreciate with how picky I am, how big that, list becomes. Oh, hey, Amit, nice to have you here. This is back to Uki now. You can see here's sort of your member profile. I'm the founder. I have decent karma. I haven't screwed everything up, but you can see that mainly what we have in here is testing. So these are the different areas. Unfortunately, with our polling, you can only do one choice right now, so you can't, and it doesn't show you the results like Facebook does, which I really like when you can put a poll in Facebook and it sort of tells you who the winner is. I was trying to figure out whether people could use this for courses. It's not that easy, to be honest, just because right now, even with the grid layout, I don't know if I change this, there's no way to reorder these at present. So it's sort of the order you put them in because they technically are posts. But if you sort of think about if you wanted to have a, use this for support for your site, your community, you could put in, different frequently asked questions here, as long as they allow you to at some point reorder them. I have no idea why there's some weird bugs on this platform that I don't understand. Like, I don't know, this used to populate with my email every time, and now it gives me that. What I was curious about is whether I could actually use this as a client portal, because I can, let me just, if I create a post here, you'll see, let me just here, you'll see the different elements, and this is something to check on any of the platforms you're looking at. So you can put it, you can just text, but you can have some different formatting of the heading. It's quite simple, to be candid. I have so many test things. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure there's people that are smarter. But every time I go live on a platform, I've got to clear out all my testing, ABC. Like, if you add a cover, let's just put my logo in just for now. Very big, but important if you're going to do grid, and there doesn't seem to be an ability to resize it. Point form, image, links, and then here's where the embed codes here. So you could, put, a type form or question scout or involve me survey in here, even Landbot. So I was kind of trying to think about, is there a way that I could have for my clients a private chat just for the city of Vancouver if they're a client, where they could go in and only they would have the login on that. And especially once the ability to add files is there, where we could actually use this as our communication. Because client portals are tricky, like it's just another login. But I was thinking if I could interact with them as clients here, and what you're going to want to do is check the check how many spaces and that sort of thing you can have. But I was sort of thinking if I had this, and if I could hide it so that other people couldn't see who my clients are, and it just came up with a, you're not a client, you lose. Well, maybe not quite that direct. But this is weird and ugly. I'm going to try one more time here's my moderator dashboard. So basically this is where I can see the different things that have happened. Community analytics, I'm not even live with this. So it's a little bit slow. I'd like to see it be a bit more springy. Is that a word? Bouncy? Responsive? Like it's still circling. So you can see the top performing edit community. I'm not really sure what all of this is. So these are the different names. What I'm not clear on though is what people do to get these. I was trying to find that, but I don't know how somebody moves to these different things. Managing tags, of course, webhooks and API. Oh, here we go. Here's some of the features. Can people post anonymously? Let's say you just want to get feedback on something. Like, so for example, for my local government clients, if they had a community, they might want to allow anonymous posting. A lot of local governments, for example, are trying to get people off of Facebook because it's so toxic. But they might decide that for certain, that this was good to have on. Google Translate, if you're using this, in a multilingual environment, is helpful. I know they're also doing some, actual translation. Community logo. This community chat, it's very, very beta, so I gotta turn that off. Where is my dark mode, people, if you see it? Because I don't know how I've gotten to dark mode, because I really don't prefer it. I was showing this to my team. Anyways, space order. So let's say I wanted introduce yourself before start. It's super easy to do, but weirdly enough, if you create it in the wrong one, you're hooped. There's nothing you can do. So unfortunately, even though I can see it all here, I can't drag between these spaces, workspaces, I forget what it is, but I can only drag inside this bundle. can create new ones. You can add icons with it. Wait a minute. I don't know why this isn't working. One would think that if I click here and then I click maybe drag it. No, anyways, that doesn't work very well. Anyways, folks, any other questions that you have about communities and community features? How many of you, like just even in the chat, how many of you, like Facebook's working well for you? It's all good. I will suggest to keep an eye on these communities because even if you don't need one right now, we're seeing like a lot more of these tools coming forward. Beam just finished in AppSumo. Uki was on AppSumo Marketplace, which normally I don't even look at. Brilliant directories, I did not. Tell me a little bit, like in the chat, about your experience with Brilliant directories. I don't recall that being a full-featured community. Does BuddyBoss plug in for community? Yes. Yes, 100 times yes. Well, sort of hard to tell because our site, like it was pretty fat and lazy with the combination of, like Learn Dash. Like this is our current site. You're seeing this twice because I'm in the WordPress, and we've got a welcome back and a welcome. I really like this kind of dash in a community, and I really hope that, to me, a community that welcomes people back with sort of, if this is somebody who is the first time they visited, they see are they new here? Because this is my full LMS, you'll see that these are all of the different things here. But, basically BuddyBoss is pretty fat. Like if you go into the BuddyBoss group, people will tell you that you need special hosting and it's expensive monthly, even though WordPress is, affordable itself. It's not just the licenses of BuddyBoss, because you do need to look at more advanced hosting or be prepared for those concurrent users to really slow your site down. Tracy's patiently waiting for new Zenler communities right now. I can show you guys a little bit about what they have. Just here. Does the BuddyBoss Learn combo? I'm just going to shut my door. My husband's just arrived home from work. Does the make up for the slowness? You know what? That's really going to be for, dependent on your needs. What I realized is I've got a great site, and Ellen Martin, who built it, is amazing. I don't like WordPress, and a lot of the things I thought mattered, I realized didn't matter to my learners. But I don't have a super high-tech market. So if you want to be like all sorts of bells and whistles, BuddyBoss does that. But I know that even Ellen, as our site developer, is actually linking Circle into her Learn Dash sites now. Like she's gone off BuddyBoss as well. BuddyBoss used to be this great forum plugin, and then it went into all of this community stuff, and you've got groups and communities, and it's a lot, but you don't have the super simple forum list layout there. But if anybody's super curious, let me know. I can walk you through my BuddyBoss, like if you're considering that, because it's super well built as far as communities go, and it's a lot. So let me just look here. Let me see if I can show you. I have so many logins, I can never figure out where I'm supposed to be. Bear with me here. I'm looking at my other. can't log into my New Zealander site. This is like a typical thing for me. It's like my password doesn't fill properly, sort of thing. So I can't show you that community. But the biggest problem with it is it's not properly threaded. The order doesn't work the way we use community. And that's one of the things that's important, is what works for somebody else may not work for you, because you know, communities are really an add-on to the way you do business. Tracy says, I really like the circle community you showed with the ability to use it. Yeah, and the interesting thing, Trace, is I actually think that a number of other communities, like you'll notice this looks quite a bit like the peer board side of the dash that we saw. These are really just spaces with I don't even know what I'm calling them anymore, with subgroups or threads underneath them. So I don't actually know why you wouldn't be able to, you know, do this. This is the kind of thing that gating, you know, impacts. I wish I could get into my New Zealander site, but I'm locked out of my own site, because the ability to embed right in discussions, a discussion thread, what it allows you to do is it expands in Zenler and populates inside Uki, which I think is cool. I mean, it's kind of annoying to have all of these workarounds, but what you'll see is like these, this is another grid layout, but you can just see how tight it looks. Like it just looks really professional. No, to the best of my knowledge, Circle has not been on lifetime deal. It's not super expensive. Let me just find, you know, because, you know, it's the same thing, you know, with everything is, you know, at what cost is the, you know, what cost is convenience. So here's some of the things. And when you go to these pricing pages, you're going to see some of the features laid out here. So for $39 a month, great. Rich member profiles, you know, they're quite robust. The iOS app is a Circle app. If you want to remove the Circle branding, do live stream, not everybody will need this though. Then you're up to $79 a month. But what you'll want to do is make sure to check, because even at that professional level, there's still only 20 spaces. So when we looked at this is 20 here, you know, these are spaces. So if you wanted to have a space for each of your courses, I got 25 courses. Maybe that's a stupid idea, and maybe I don't need that. I've got to wrap my mind around that. But so sort of thinking about those limits. Uki's got really good limits. But you'll start to see, this is, all I did is I went through all of the sites and I grabbed all of these features. So, you know, you'll recognize some of these things, and I haven't gone through and compared every single product, but anything you're looking at, you can just sort of check, what does it have? You'll see you can add extra spaces for $20 a month, but if you're already at $79, that puts you up to $99 then for more spaces. Extra members, I don't know what the limit on members is. I mean, most of us are never going to have more than 10,000 members. I mean, you know, we've got, you know, 13,000 on Facebook, but that's Facebook. You're not going to see, you know, a lot of people are seeing sort of a third of their members go over to a community if they leave Facebook. Where I'm starting to see the membership, what used to be Membership Guys is now Membership Geeks, does a really good job, in my opinion, of using a free Facebook group for sort of membership discussion, but keeping the meat in their membership itself in a private community. Any other questions, folks? Again, you know, I'm not a membership expert, but, you know, again, not all of these features will matter. I think that the ability to add community to website is something that people often don't think about, because even if you have a WordPress site, for example, with any, even just a video, for example, let's say that you don't have an LMS, but you want to have people discussing a, let's say you want to stream a YouTube live onto your WordPress site to keep people in your community. If you can embed a discussion from your community onto that page of your WordPress site, not only are you having engagement on that YouTube live, but that's being saved in your community, which is pretty powerful. Embedding posts, same thing. Like if you want to, like, let's say you do a blog post on communities, and you ask, what do you use? Well, that can be building your assets, your sort of intellectual property inside your community. And, no like trust. We've all heard that so much. But the more that your community becomes a place where people go to find things out, the more it's going to be easier for those of you that market based on that, to sort of be an expert. And the beautiful thing about community is, you can upload a video and then, very much like we do in Facebook, you can have a Facebook Live, which is live, but the overwhelming majority of our members are actually interacting with the video after it's done. So you can post a video into a community and have those discussions happening with folks. Anyways, gang, it's been an hour, so I'm going to let you all get back to your real lives. I'm just going to tighten this up. Can you guys do me a favor, though? If you want to get this PDF, just, send me a PM or whatever else. But also, what's missing? What matters most to you? One of the things I want to remind you of, just bear with me, I'm going to find this. Always so unorganized, and you guys are always so patient with me, so thank you. But if you recall, another resource that we have here is, check this out, this post here. These were I've used what's the most important features. These are we got a lot of engagement here, but member dashboard, different privacy by space. So this is where, like, some of the, you can see that a lot of these are taken from my mind map, just in terms of, stimulating discussion. But take a look at what matters to you, and also take a look at what matters to other people, because if something's super important to you and it's not already there, if nobody else cares about it, I don't like your chances, bluntly. GDPR compliance, Tudor mentioned that. This is one of those things that the rest of us don't care about, but man, if you need it, you really need it. It's like the data storage for me in Canada. Anyways, one person likes their Facebook. RSS feeds, there's some other things in here. I should add these in. Mobile apps there twice. Completion tracking and knowledge, that more on an LMS than a community generally, unless you want a platform like Mighty Networks that embeds both. One of the members mentioned that Podia has just launched a community to go along with their e-learning platform. I like really vacillate on these sorts of things between, all of these people wanting to do sort of everything means generally they don't do everything quite as well as the purpose-built tools. So the first test that I'm having with most of the tools I look at is, will it play with others first? Because I do not want to have to make trade-offs for a substandard calendar booking in order to use a platform that I like for other reasons, if I've got a great tool for that, or a proposal tool. Sean, always a pleasure. You're an absolute delight. Tracy, you should be at the beach. You should not be watching this. But anyways, folks, thank you so much for joining me. Again, Uki is not our deal. If you want it, check out the site. I hope that they fix that 20% off, because that's frustrating when people, when a code is supposed to work. But let me know if it doesn't work, and also reach out to support, because that was, I just got that for the members yesterday, so that should be working. Again, yeah, that's my thoughts. Have Buddy Boss, have tried most of the, I have Tribe, I have Peerboard. If any of you want to play with any of those as well, I've got licenses to Beam. I actually am going to refund those, though. Those are still within the refund period, just because I just can't see myself ever using it, even though it's adorable, other than the purple blobs. But I was joking with a colleague. If you ever want to test any technology, these are all of the tools that we own, inside my company. So I don't know if everybody needs 8 chat tools or 11 email marketing tools. Anyways, so if you ever are curious about a tool and you want to check it out, don't hesitate to reach out to me, because we've got more than 400 pieces of software. Let me reach out, Trace, and I'll post right in here when that's working, but that is annoying. I will let you know. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye-bye.